Let's move to the section-wise explanation of the T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, The Burial of Dead. This opening section introduces the spiritual barrenness of the modern world. Eliot overturns traditional symbols of renewal. Spring, usually associated with rebirth, becomes painful because it forces people to remember emotions they would rather suppress. Winter, by contrast, feels comforting because it allows numbness and forgetfulness. The voices in this section shift abruptly from prophecy to memory to casual conversation, showing a fractured consciousness. There is no single stable speaker. The past, myth, religion, tradition appears only as fragments, no longer capable of offering meaning. The image of the crowd flowing over London Bridge presents modern life as a mechanical and lifeless. People move like ghosts, alive physically but dead spiritually. The section establishes the poem's central problem: life continues, but meaning does not. The core idea of this section is spiritual emptiness. The mood of this section is unease, irony, emotional, and numbness. And what is the key concern? The key concern is loss of faith, memory, and coherence. Section 2, A Game of Chess. This section focuses on collapse of personal relationships, especially marriage and intimacy. The title suggests a game, strategic, artificial, and lacking genuine emotion. The first half presents a rich decorative room where a woman suffers from anxiety and emotional instability. Despite luxury, there is no peace. Conversation is fragmented, repetitive, and strained. Speech exists, but communication fails. The second half shifts to a pub scene where working class women gossip mechanically about marriage and sexuality. Love has been reduced to routine and obligation. Relationships are governed by social pressure, not emotional connection. Across both scenes, Eliot shows the intimacy has lost depth. Human connection survives only as habit. The core idea of this section is emotional sterility and failed communication. The mood of this section is anxiety, tension, hollowness, and key concern is relationships without love or understanding. Now let's move to section 3, the fire sermon. This is the longest and the most central section, presenting a moral and spiritual wasteland. The polluted river Thames symbolizes cultural decay. What once sacred is now defiled. The key figure here is Tiresias, who has lived as both man and woman. Tiresias represents universal consciousness, a witness to moral decline. Through him, Eliot presents a loveless sexual encounter that is mechanical and meaningless. The title refers to the Buddha's fire sermon, which urges renunciation of desire. Eliot contrasts this spiritual teaching with modern life, surrender to empty pleasure. Desire burns, but it does not purify, it exhausts. Core idea for this section is moral degeneration and loss of sacred values. The mood of this section is weariness, disgust, resignation, and the key concern is desire without meaning, pleasure without fulfillment. Fourth section is death by water. This short section serves as a symbolic pause. Phlebas, the Phoenician, is drowned, and with him die pride, ambition, and materialism. Water here is both destructive and purifying. Death becomes a reminder of human mortality and futility of the worldly attachments. Unlike earlier sections filled with noise and voices, this one is quiet and reflective. It warns modern humanity against arrogance and spiritual blindness. The core idea of this section is mortality, spiritual warning. Mood of this section is calm, somber, reflective, and key concerns are the inevitability of death and the vanity of material life. Fifth section, which is the last section, what the thunder said. The final section presents a world in chaos, dry, broken, exhausted. Civilization appears on the verge of collapse. Images of the ruined cities and spiritual drought dominate. Yet this section also gestures towards possibility. The thunder speaks in Sanskrit word from the Upanishads. Datta gave, Daya Dhavam sympathize, and Damyata control. These are not solutions but ethical suggestions, ways humanity might recover meaning. The poem ends with Shanti, 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 meaning peace. This is not peace achieved, but peace hoped for. The poem closes in yearning, not resolution. The core idea of this section is crisis with fragile hope of renewal. Mood is desolation mixed with spiritual longing, and key concern is search for order after cultural collapse. The wasteland portrays a modern civilization that has lost faith, love, and coherence, yet still searches quietly, painfully for spiritual renewal.